Hello everyone, this is Glenn with the Southern Delta Church of Wicca ATC here in Lake City, Arkansas. It's about 58 degrees today. Today's November 1st, 2021. And we know that we have some frost coming up in a couple of weeks. And we want to make sure that the stem coming out of the ground that houses our faucet and the well system around it is all nice and insulated, packed in tight for the winter. So what we're going to be doing today is building a lid that's going to go on top of the well. It's going to be glued down with F26. I'm about to go ahead now and start measuring everything, and then we're going to set it all up to get cut. So let's get started. Since we installed the well, we've had this grate. That's just an old barbecue grill. It just so happened to be the perfect size to fit over it for the time. Now this is okay for just keeping stuff out of it for the time being. But we just picked this up at Lowe's. So it's 24 inches in diameter. Fits right on top of it, just as it needs to be. So what we're going to have to do is get it measured and cut so that we have ease of access to the faucet. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this. There's no need for this to be plugged up for the rest of the year. So the faucet stem is on the back half of the well. So more of the front half of the well is not even being used for this purpose. So what I'm going to do is get this set to where only a third of this entire circle is going to be glued down to the well, down to the bricks. So there's already a natural line for where they connected all these smaller boards together to make this circle piece. So I'm going to use that as my guideline, and that's where I'm going to make my cut. So I'm just going to cut across here. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect some hinges down to it. After that, I'm going to paint the whole thing, get it ready to be installed, and then we're going to glue it down. Okay, now that I know what I'm going to be cutting, here's what I'm going to be using to do this with. So, first off, a bench. It's always good to have some type of good bench that you can work on, some kind of sturdy surface. This is basically just a beefed up sawhorse. It's a sawhorse with a heavy top on it. I've used this for years. This has always been my go-to workbench, first one I ever made. And I'm still using it almost 10 years later. So I'm going to be cutting this with a pole saw. This is one of my favorite tools in the world right here. I have used this thing I don't know how many times on so many projects up to this point, and it still works very good. I'm sure at some point I'm going to end up having to replace it, but for now it's still going to do the job. So next things I'm going to be using is these quick grip vices. These are excellent tools. If you don't have any of these in your shop, what are you doing? You got to have these. They're so handy, they're convenient, and convenience is always a must in a shop, especially when you're trying to get projects done quickly. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and clamp this down. Actually, before I do that, I need to go ahead and get this plastic off here, because there is like a film of plastic that's on the wood. All right, let's get it set back where I had it. Right there. This is the line, the natural line that's in the wood. This is where they glued it down and put all these together. So we'll go ahead and clamp this down so it's solid, not going to move. I have 4 of these, and there's a reason. I'm going to show you one. I mean, why I got 4 of them. I'm only using 2 to clamp down the project wood. The other 2, what I'm going to be doing is using my metal yardstick as a guide. I'm going to put this right up against the line that I'm going to be cutting. The reason I'm putting this down is because as I am cutting with the saw, I want to keep it as a straight line as possible. Now I am hoping that the glue line that they have given me in the wood will be pretty easy to cut through. We're about to find out. Pretty basic setup. I feel like most people could be able to do this. So let's get started. Oh yeah, one minute. Look at this. So if you notice, there's 2 different sizes of teeth that's on this saw. Now when I bought it, apparently the instructions said that the larger teeth are for ripping and the smaller teeth are for fine work. I have never found the larger teeth to be good for most projects. It tears the wood, it ruins every finish I've ever tried to put it on. I've even tried to put this on timber wood and it didn't cut as good. So I wish I could find one of these that just had a double-edged fine tooth. That would be great. So. There. Now I'm sure that there's a lot other ways that a person could have cut this. How would you have done it? Let me know down in the comments. This is just the way that I figured to do it. It was the best way that I had access to make the cut. I'm going to go ahead and get some sandpaper, smooth that down just a little bit, not much, because I don't want to interfere with how everything connects. But that's going to be my next part, is getting the hinges on there. Once the hinges are on there, I'll start painting it, then we'll get this thing installed. Alright, I went ahead and sanded these just a little bit. Now what I'm going to be using to connect everything are some simple hinges. Somebody donated this to the church. You know who you are. Thank you very much. I think they picked it up at a yard sale or something to that effect, and we're going to use this to make this look good. Now this is going to be painted red to go along with the rest of the well roof system, and brass always looks very good with red. I think so. So to start off, what we're going to do, we need to get everything lined up. I'm going to go back to using the clamps. I'm going to clamp everything down so it's a circle again. Now this step essentially is just to get everything lined up. Because everything has to be just perfect in this sense, because if it's not, then when we go to lift it, it'll be a very uneven. We don't want it to be uneven. So we're going to use a little math to get this right. So that's about 4 inches, just under 4 inches from the edge. We want this to be just the same. Just going to make a couple of marks. So this is the end that's going to be glued down to the well, and this is going to be closest to the gate. So when you approach the well from the gate, this is going to be the side that you're going to get to. You have to come around to the back of the well. I'm going to end up putting a knob on it after it's painted. So there it is. Good little test. Everything seems to work just fine. Alright, so what I decided to do, instead of painting it first, I thought it would probably do better if I went ahead and mounted it down first, and then went back and painted it. Gotta get it all lined up right. The idea here is I want to try to get as much coverage on the bricks, but I don't want too much overhang on one specific side. So, alright, we got this pretty much lined up where I want. Little spider, I'm going to let him go. He's out in the garden, it's his garden, he can do what he wants out here. So, what we're using to mount the board down is something called F26. Now, Right Reverend Terry Riley, he tells me that you could put this stuff on a 2x4 and put it against a brick wall, and if you tried to get the board off, it would basically turn into splinters. So that's what we're hoping, is that much of a bond. We want this piece of wood to stay. So I have to be very careful in that sense, because I don't want it to be in the wrong spot. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the wood. Now I'm not going to go too close to this edge, because I don't want any glue getting in there and getting on the other side. That would be not good. I'm putting a pretty generous amount all the way around the half moon. or I should say quarter moon. Okay, I think that will about do it for the F-26. Wait, get this out of the way for a minute. So now I'm going to go ahead and let this come over. It should just fall right into place. Don't want to get any on me. It might never come off. Now I'm going to put some of this stuff around the bottom edge here in the cracks. It all gets sealed up. This is the same stuff that we used whenever we mounted the legs of the roof over this. And they held up pretty good. So that gives me hope. I'm just going around using this stuff as a sealant, in every little nook and cranny that I can see. When this all dries, perhaps tomorrow, we will get out here and put a hefty amount of insulation inside. We have old cushion insulation. That's what we use for our pipes and such. Because here at Southern Delta Church of Wicca, what we like to do is repurpose as much stuff as we can when we have the option to do it. There's already so much waste in the world. Anytime we can recycle anything, it's always best to do so. I have this one little end here. I just don't want to put too much. I do not want it to get on that other side of the lid. Okay. think that's going to be enough F26. Set that over to the side for a little bit. A couple of those two screws over there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to paint this side to start off. I'm using a Rust-Oleum Safety Red. This is the same stuff that I'm using on our garden cart. That will be in another video at some point. So be on the lookout for that. When that video is up, I'll put a link to it in the description below and have you an end cap video that you can select. That's going to be a really awesome video when I get that one done. Okay. Safety Red. So, before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and put one glove on. Try to cut down on using petroleum just to get this stuff off of me. When I went to Lowe's to buy this paint, the person who was in charge of mixing paints, I spoke with them and I said, I'm looking for fire truck red. They said, well, they don't have fire truck red. They said the closest thing they had was called safety red. So I don't know if there is actually such a thing as fire truck red model paint, but I'm sure there is somewhere. But this is pretty close. Try to do first, try to get around this hinge. Go ahead and get that out of the way. The brush that I have just so happens to be a cut-in brush. Getting around crown molding and window frames. So now that I've finished up all the painting, I'm going to go ahead and let this sit for about 24 hours. Then I'm going to come out of here tomorrow afternoon when it's all good and dry, and I'm going to connect the two pieces together, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill the inside with foam. Okay, today is November 2nd. This thing has had a good 24 hours to cure. Let's see how it's doing. Yeah, It looks like the F26 is really set in good. It's sturdy. It has a little bit of mushiness to it, but it's still pretty stout. It's definitely not going anywhere. The paint's all good and dry. So now what we need to do is go ahead and get all of the screws put in on these hinges. Going to go on there just about like that. It's going to look really nice. Keep the bucket off to one side so it raises up nice. Go all the way over. So if we need to get in there and work, we can, and the lid won't even be in the way. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pagan Gardener. 2021 was a great year for the community garden. We got a lot done, a lot built. Had a lot of participation by our community, helping to feed one another. We're still going strong on our food pantry. People are still coming out and enjoying a lot of the things that we're putting out, even though we can't put any of the vegetables out at the moment. But next year, 2022, is going to be a great year. Now that we have all of this started, next year we're going to be able to start off strong and get a lot more people fed who are needing it in our community. So, if you like the work we're doing here at the Pagan Gardener in Southern Delta Church of Wicca, ATC in Lake City, Arkansas, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up on this video. Click the subscribe button and click that notification bell so you don't miss any new content that's coming out. And until next time, for the Pagan Gardener, blessed be.